Yup, I'm finally doing my 2000s Disney ranking. Even though my first couple of videos were Disney related, I'm not a huge Disney fan. Well, 20th century Disney I think is pretty fascinating and cool, but 21st century Disney, I don't really care. But there's been some good modern Disney stuff sometimes. I'm also saying this because I have a lot more hot takes in this video than usual, so I want you to especially keep in mind that these are just my dumb opinions and you don't have to agree with them. Dinosaur is very boring.
Dinosaurs.
The animation is dated and hideous looking. The characters are uninteresting and bland. One of the dinosaurs is just a dog, which doesn't make sense because the other dinosaurs don't act like dogs. The story is very cliche and so is the dialogue.
What you need is a little help from the love monkey.
The love monkey?
Ow, baby!
To be fair, the first 5 minutes of the movie were kinda cool, but that's it. Don't watch this movie unless you want to go honk shoe honk shoe. Chicken Little gave me testicular torsion. Every single character is unlikable, especially the father character. Jack Torrance from The Shining is a better father than this cock. Every single joke falls flat. There was a scene where the fish made the Empire State Building out of comics and pretends like he's King Kong, and the entire joke is just the fact that they're referencing King Kong. Hey, you guys remember King Kong? Yeah, that was a movie. Do you guys remember the boulder scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark? Yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark was also a movie, and that boulder was a popular scene from that movie. Those aren't jokes. The animation is ugly and the writing is confused. The first half of this movie is just a shitty baseball underdog story, and the second half is just a shittier version of the Twilight Zone episode Monsters on Maple Street. Never watch The Tiny Cock. It's very, very bad.
You better close my door. Lucky I don't beat your ass. Oh, whoa, whoa.
Brother Bear was cool for the first 10 minutes. Yeah, the opening of this movie is really damn good and emotionally captivating, but as soon as the main character gets turned into a bear, it all goes downhill. The comedy is unfunny and the dialogue is childish. The characters are annoying, except the moose because Rick Moranis is a national treasure. Also, the Phil Collins songs are interesting. Same problem with Tarzan. This movie would have been much better if these songs were incorporated into musical numbers instead of Phil Collins just randomly singing over the film like he's the narrator. Great Spirits is actually a really great opening song and kinda slaps. On My Way is okay, I guess. Welcome is laughably terrible and cheesy. And No Way Out is easily the worst song of the movie because it tries so hard to add emotion to the scene it accompanies, but instead it falls flat on its face and drastically takes away the emotional impact of the scene. So yeah, besides the beautiful animation and the stuff I already mentioned, this movie doesn't have much going for it. Home on the Range is so painfully childish. The Roseanne cow is a bad main character and she deserved to get made into a hamburger. Grace is a decent comic relief. Almeda Slim is a decent villain. Buck is also a decent comic relief. Steve Buscemi is in the movie for 5 minutes, but that 5 minutes was amazing.
Fuck you, man! Where's Jerry? I gave simple fucking instructions!
Patrick Warburton is also in the movie for a minute, but that minute was also amazing. And all the other characters are insanely forgettable. The comedy in this movie is unfunny. The jokes and slapstick comedy range from decent to irritating. The writing is predictable and the animation is nothing special. Even though I'm being pretty harsh on this movie, it's not the worst thing ever. Sure, there's not a lot of good things in it, but the bad stuff isn't awful. Overall, if you like this movie, that's awesome, but I personally didn't. Bolt is my favorite Avenger. The characters are not very good. Bolt is a boring character, Penny is a boring character, and the other characters are just okay. The only character I kinda like is Dr. Coleco, but that's probably only because Malcolm McDowell voiced him.
It's funny how the colors of the real world only seem really real when you video them on a screen.
The comedy is not funny, the story is dumb. The only main thing I like in this movie is the animation and the cute animal designs. If you like this movie, that's great, but I personally didn't. Sorry.
What do you mean you don't agree with me? Do you know who you're dealing with?
Okay, now time for the extremely hot take that people are going to be mad at me for. I'm sorry, Princess and the Frog didn't work for me. Don't get me wrong, there is great stuff in this movie. Tiana is the best character in the movie, Prince Naveen is a charming character, Dr. Facilier is a great villain, Charlotte and Big Daddy are okay, the songs are great, Down in New Orleans is good, Almost There is groovy and the animation style is great, Friends on the Other Side is a great villain song. So yeah, the first third of this movie is really solid, but then Tiana gets turned into a frog and the movie goes downhill. The comedy in the first third was pretty charming, but all the jokes in the second third fell flat. The witch doctor and the alligator were fine yet very forgettable characters. The firefly was annoying, and I think there were 2 songs during the second third of the movie, but they were very forgettable. Also, how is it possible to make a plot way too dumb and way too complex at the same time? Although some of the characters and songs are great, the negatives outweigh the positives for me personally. I just really wish the rest of the movie was as strong as that first third. If you like this movie, that's great, but I personally didn't. I may not see Treasure Planet as the underrated gem that everyone says it is, but I still think it's pretty decent. Jim Hawkins is a cool hero, Long John Silver is an amazing complex villain character, Captain Amelia is an interesting character, and Morph is a cute character. The relationship between Hawkins and John Silver is easily the best part of the movie because of how well written it is. I loved the steampunk setting this movie creates, and the animation is great, as usual. Here are my problems. Dr. Doppler can be an annoying character at times. Ben is an annoying and unfunny comic relief. The side romance between Dr. Doppler and the captain is unnecessary and uninteresting. And the music is bad and doesn't fit the movie's tone at all. I'm not kidding, in the middle of the movie there is a really bad song that plays over a montage of Jim Hawkins' childhood and relationship with John Silver, and it just feels like a shitty fan-made music video you'd find on YouTube. Overall, this is a decent movie, and I'm glad so many people love it, but personally, if I want to watch a great steampunk animated movie, then I'd rather watch Howl's Moving Castle or Nausicaa or Castle in the Sky. Sorry, Meet the Robinsons didn't click with me like it did with so many other people. Lewis is a good character, Wilbur is a good character, Bowler Hat Guy is one of Disney's most hilarious villains, but the other characters are just okay and pretty forgettable. The comedy in this movie is the exact definition of hit or miss. Sometimes it's really funny, but other times I roll my eyes at it. Some aspects of the plot are pretty dumb and don't make much sense. But besides the villain, the best part about this movie is the message. The message isn't anything groundbreaking, but it's the way the movie deals with the message that makes it so good. Overall, this is a flawed but pretty decent Disney movie. I'm glad it's getting a cult following among some people, but it's just not my thing, I guess. Atlantis, the Lost Empire is like Castle in the Sky if Castle in the Sky was cheesy as hell. Milo is an okay protagonist, Kida is an okay love interest, Commander Lyle is an okay villain, but the best characters in this movie are the side characters. They all have distinct personalities, they're all funny, and they're all memorable. The animation is unique for a Disney movie, and the comic book art style is great. The steampunk world this movie creates is great. The action is pretty good, but my biggest problem with this movie is the writing. The story itself is okay, but the storytelling is so cheesy and stupid. This movie feels like it's trying to be a mature action animation movie like Princess Mononoke, Castle in the Sky, or Nausicaa, but doesn't want to cross the line of being PG-13. Overall, this movie is decent, and I'm glad it's getting a cult following. The Emperor's New Groove is pretty goofy. Kuzco is a good character, Pacha is a good sidekick, and John Goodman gives a great performance as always.
Hey, Tiny, I want to get out of this body, wouldn't you? Now let's go. Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
The side characters are pretty forgettable, but of course the best characters in this movie are Kronk and Isma. They are both hilarious. The comedy is without a doubt the best part of this movie. The timing, the adult jokes, and the fourth wall breaks are so different for a Disney movie, and I like it a lot. The animation is great and works well with the comedy. My biggest problem with this movie is the emotional scenes didn't work for me at all, but other than that, I can see why this movie is a cult classic. Personally, I don't see this as the funniest movie ever, but it's still great and I would recommend watching it. Fantasia 2000 is the best Walt Disney animation sequel ever. The opening segment is beautiful, but the story is kinda weird and sometimes the visuals don't fit the music that well. The whale segment is awesome and breathtaking. The Tin Soldier segment is cheesy and I don't like it. The New York segment is incredible, the animation is so unique and fits the music really well. The Flamingo Yo-Yo segment is cute but also dumb and childish at the same time. The Donald Duck Noah's Ark segment is hilarious and the animation is great, but also the visuals don't fit the music that well, and the subplot with Donald and Daisy doesn't make sense at all. And the anime Spirit segment is my favorite, because the animation is some of the most beautiful and most visually stunning in all of Disney. However, just like in the original Fantasia, the non-animated segments are bad. The original Fantasia's non-animated segments had a boring narrator say boring and pointless things. In this movie, instead of a narrator, this movie has celebrity guest appearances that say how great Fantasia 2000 is and make unfunny jokes. I genuinely don't know which one's worse. Overall, this movie is amazing. Although not as good as the original, it's still a magnificent experience to watch. My Neighbor Stitchero, Lilo and Stitch, is very charming. Lilo is probably the best and most realistic child character in all of Disney. Nanny is also a well-developed character that you grow to sympathize with during the course of the movie. The relationship between Lilo and Nanny is one of the best parts of the movie. Stitch is a pretty charming and wholesome character, and the relationship between Lilo and Stitch is also one of the best parts of the movie. And the rest of the characters are great too. The animation is great, and I love those watercolor backgrounds. The setting of Hawaii is great. The comedy is funny, the emotional stuff works surprisingly well. My only two problems with the movie are the alien stuff and the ending. Besides Stitch, none of the alien characters grabbed me like the human characters did, and the ending does not fit the rest of the movie's tone at all. Overall, this is an amazing movie, and although I personally don't have nostalgia for this movie, I'm glad so many others do. Well, another video done. Hopefully I didn't piss off too many people. Subscribe or something. Bye bye.